Hello and welcome to the new series of Drishti IAS. I am Pooja, and in this segment today we are going to analyze the importance of Uniform Civil Code. Why is it so important for us to discuss it? Because it is mentioned in the Constitution of India, and that is the alone reason that we should be knowing about it. So these are the many topics. We have covered myriad of topics that can reflect in your prelims question paper and mains question paper as well. So no need to worry about going through anything else once you have gone through this segment. Let us move on and talk about the news. Now, civil code and the government stance, what has been the government stance since decades with respect to uniform civil code, that will be discussed. But what is the basic difference between criminal laws and civil laws? What is the origin of uniform civil code? That also needs to be understood, right? Moving on, let us talk about what are civil laws versus criminal laws with respect to personal and uniform. And if we talk about criminal laws, these are basically uniform and they're applicable equally on all, despite of the fact that each religion might have its own customs and religious declaration with respect to trying the prisoners, trying the convicts, but still it's uniform. Civil laws basically are influenced by faith and they have their origin in the ancient religious text for Hinduism as well and for Islam as well. And the personal laws which come into effect in civil cases, they have always been implemented according to the constitution norms. Constitution has been the law of the land, and that is the sole reason. Moving on, let us talk about Uniform Civil Code. What is Uniform Civil Code? Uniform Civil Code finds its mention in the Directive Principles of State Policy, Article 44, in which the state shall endeavour to secure a uniform civil code for the citizens throughout the territory of India. And this might be a formulation of one law for India. It is applicable to all religious communities in cases of which cases where the personal laws might differ, and that creates inequality specifically to the vulnerable. Marriage, divorce, inheritance and adoption. Whereas regions where personal laws actually discriminates when it comes to gender, when it comes to the lower strata of the society. Let us move on and talk about the countries where Uniform Civil Code is in practice. Many developed countries such as USA, Canada, Australia, UK and Russia have implemented Uniform Civil Code in order to ensure cultural social homogeneity. Okay. Moving on, let us talk about the objectives of the Article 44. The objective is very simple. First, to address the discrimination against vulnerable groups, that can be women and the lower section of the strata. Harmonize diverse cultural groups across the country so that no sense of discrimination prevails in the country. Moving on. Now, it originates to the, if we have to trace its origin, then of course we can look at the colonial era. When the British government's report in 1835 talked about there should be a uniformity when it comes to codification of Indian laws, specifically criminals, evidence, crimes and contracts. But it specifically stated that the personal laws of Hindus and Muslims shall be kept outside such codification. They did not want to meddle with the personal laws of Hindus and Muslims. Moving on. Now after that, the B.N. Rao committee was given the task to codify Hindu laws in 1941. Also, the task was to question the necessity of common Hindu law. Why should a common Hindu law prevail? And then it recommended that a codified Hindu law should be given in which equality of gender should be there. That means equality should be given to women when it comes to inheritance of the father's property and various other areas where discrimination did exist. So the 1937 Act was reviewed and the Civil Code of Marriages and Succession for Hindus were given. Okay, this is the basic background. And the bill, after that, the recommendation was given to a select committee of B.R. Ambedkar, and the bill, after it got relapsed in 1952, it was trying to get implemented, but finally adopted in 1956 as the Hindu Succession Act. The aim was to codify the laws relating to interstate or unwilled succession among Hindus, Buddhists, Jains and Sikhs, and it also reformed the Hindu personal law by giving women the greater property rights and ownership. So it increased the status, and not increased, basically it ensured that women are kept on the same pedestal as men. It gave women property rights in their father's estate, very importantly. Moving on, now let's talk about how is it different from the personal laws. Now personal laws, as I tell you, they get their legitimacy, you can say, from the religion, caste, faith and beliefs that have been passed through the generation. And also, not only that, not only religious, but customs might prevail in a specific region. So customs are also given preference in personal laws. And in Hinduism, basically the laws, personal laws are implemented when it comes to inheritance, succession, marriage, adoption, co-parenting, as well as obligation of son to pay the father's debt, the partition of family property, maintenance of guardianship, and charitable donations as well. When it comes to Islam, the same thing goes for the Islam personal laws as well. Inheritance, will, succession, legacies, marriages, waqf, dowry, guardianship, divorce, gift, preemption, taking roots from Quran. Okay, and Uniform Civil Code basically wants to end discrimination. That means whatever discrimination might exist in Hinduism as well as Islam when it comes to the vulnerable section of the society, specifically I am telling you women, they were not kept on the same pedestal both in Hinduism and also in Islam. So simplify laws. Basically, Uniform Civil Code wanted to simplify laws that are segregated at present on the basis of personal laws that can go from Hindu code bill, Shariat law, and others. So there are many diversions in the personal law. So in order to make that uniform only, this Uniform Civil Code has been come into practice. Now, if we talk about the government stance from 1991 to 2004, the basic policy was no interference. This roots back to you can think of the revolt of the 1857, when it was seen that meddling into the personal laws of the general citizens of India, when that was meddled, a spark was given to the revolt of 1857. So similarly, you can see that the general policy was no interference. Because Uniform Civil Code necessarily involved changes in personal laws of minority communities. The consistent policy of government has been not to interfere on its own in the personal laws of the minority community. Initiative for the change has to come from the social strata of the society in which everybody has their own personal laws. So non-interference was given preference over any sort of meddling, and any sort of initiative for change should come from the society itself. That was the stand. In the case of UPA government, initiatives for the change in personal laws of minority communities should come if not from the entire community, but a sizable cross section of such communities themselves, because seldom it has been seen if any social change is enforced through laws, it always backfires. And importance of the subject matter and sensitivity involved in the entire Uniform Civil Code implementation is the main reason, because it is very sensitive. In India, people are very attached to their religion and customs. Okay, now this comes since 2019, when the NDA government put Uniform Civil Code as one of its aims in the manifestos of 2019 Lok Sabha election. Now the era of consultation has begun. The government had requested the 21st Law Commission of India to undertake examination of various issues relating to Uniform Civil Code and to make any sort of recommendation thereon. Also, the government is committed to honor the constitutional mandate. However, this requires wide-scale consultation, that is, we are referring to over here with respect to Article 44, and the wider consultation should prevail. Also, government is very ambivalent, matter is sub judice, because Supreme Court is still in the process of hearing clutch of petitions with respect to Uniform Civil Code. Government is very ambivalent. It is not, it wants to pursue UCC, Uniform Civil Code, but at the same time, it is very cautious in its approach. So with respect to previous Supreme Court judgments, Supreme Court has already and always upheld the importance of Article 44. This can resonate with us from the judgments given here. A common civil code will help the cause of national integration by helping different loyalties to the conflicting ideologies. This was stated in the Shahbano case. Then comes the Sadla Mudgal case, in which it is said, when more than 80% of the citizens have been placed under the personal law codified, there is no justification. So to keep whatever in the absence, even more, the introduction of the Uniform Civil Code for all citizens in the territory of India. So you can see that Supreme Court is also in favor of getting the UCC implemented. Moving on. Now, the case of Goa is the only state in the country which has its own civil code, which is uniform in nature. And recently, parliamentary panel has visited Goa to review the Uniform Civil Code. That is one of the things that you have to keep in mind, which Uttarakhand also wants to implement the Uniform Civil Code. Now, what are the advantages of Uniform Civil Code? The biggest advantage is overlapping provisions of law. They will get avoided and a uniformity will prevail. All people will get equal status and there should be no discrimination. Would be and should be. And the nation would speak together. Country would emerge with new force and power when uniformity is there. discrimination ends, inequality ends. This is the aspiration of UCC, and it will also simplify the Indian legal system, right? This is the most important one. Burden on judiciary would decrease and speedy justice will be dispensed. Moving on, what are the challenges now? The fundamental right article 25 says that a person is free to practice, profess and propagate his or her own religion, right? So what about that? It's a fundamental right, then it will become fundamental right versus DPSP. Now in that case, what happens? Tell me in the comment segment. When a fundamental right is in conflict with the directive principle of state policy, you must know that. Diverse personal laws are there. So in order to ensure that no religion feels threatened with respect to uniform civil code, that should also be ensured. Fallout with the tribal groups can happen because other than religion, custom also dictates many civil laws, specifically when we have a huge tribal population in the Northeast India. And then opposition is coming from the religious groups because many are feeling that it is a threat to their religion. Awareness should be included in that. Misconception around uniform civil code. Many people, specifically the minority groups, are thinking that it is against their religion, but it is not. It is basically to ensure that no discrimination arises and speedy justice can be given. So sensitization drive should take place with respect to ensuring that religious groups understand the importance of uniformity when it comes to civil justice. Criminal justice is already there. Civil justice should also be uniform. Law Commission reports recommendation with respect to uniform civil code must be taken very seriously, and social revolution shows better results. Whenever social revolutions have to take place, it should come from the society itself, not imposed from the above. We saw that in Sabrimala case. Let us move on and talk about our mains question. What do you understand by the uniform civil code? Discuss the challenges associated as well as the way forward in 250 words. Okay, so that's it. Thank you so much for watching.